A quiet announcement just sent shockwaves through global aviation, and most people still haven't fully grasped how serious it is. China Southern Airlines, one of the largest carriers on the planet, has decided to sell every single one of its Boeing 787-8 not one or two aircraft, not a test sale, all 10. These are modern wide-body jets once marketed as the future of long-haul flying, symbols of efficiency, innovation, and prestige. Yet now, they're being auctioned online at prices that stunned even seasoned aircraft traders. And that raises a much bigger question. Why would an airline dump aircraft that many competitors would love to get their hands on, especially at a time when the world is facing an aircraft shortage? The answer isn't simple, and it definitely isn't what most people expect. When the news first surfaced in late 2024, the aviation world barely believed it. China Southern revealed plans to offload its entire fleet of 10 Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, along with spare engines, even as global passenger demand was roaring back to life. By April 2025, the airline doubled down, officially listing the aircraft for sale through a state-backed exchange with a starting price that raised eyebrows across the industry. For context, these jets are barely 11 to 12 years old, practically teenagers in aviation terms. Many airlines happily operate wide-body aircraft that are twice that age. Normally, planes this young don't get pushed out unless something fundamental no longer works. And that's where the story starts to get uncomfortable. What makes this decision even more confusing is what these aircraft once represented. Back in 2013, China Southern became the first airline in mainland China to introduce the Dreamliner, presenting it as a bold statement of modernization. The aircraft flew premium long-haul routes, showcased new cabin technology, and later became a backbone of important regional operations. At the time, it symbolized confidence in Boeing and confidence in global expansion. Walking away from that symbol now isn't just a fleet adjustment, it's a message. And that message becomes louder when you look at the timing. China's aviation market is booming. Passenger numbers surged after the pandemic, infrastructure spending exploded, and forecasts point toward hundreds of millions of additional trips every year. With demand climbing fast, airlines everywhere are scrambling for capacity. Yet China Southern is voluntarily giving up thousands of potential daily seats. That's not a move driven by weakness. It's driven by strategy. The real turning point comes down to economics, and it's brutally simple. The 787-8 looks efficient on paper. But in China Southern's network, it no longer makes financial sense. Its passenger capacity is limited compared to competing wide-bodies, meaning fewer seats to sell on each flight. The problem is that most operating cost fuel crew maintenance don't shrink just because there are fewer passengers on board. That pushes the cost per seat higher, quietly eating into margins. Over hundreds of flights, that difference snowballs into serious money. Airlines don't survive on technological elegance. They survive on seat economics. When compared directly to alternatives like the Airbus wide-body family, the cracks widen. Larger aircraft offer more flexibility, more passengers when demand spikes, more cargo when freight yields are strong, and better performance on high-density routes that dominate China's domestic and regional markets. Even small differences in fuel burn, payload limits, and maximum takeoff weight add up when scaled across an airline the size of China Southern. Over time, those margins decide which aircraft stay and which ones go. That's why this move isn't anti-Boeing, but it is selective. China Southern continues to operate the larger 787-9, a variant that better balances capacity and efficiency. The airline hasn't abandoned Boeing altogether, but it has clearly decided that the smaller Dreamliner no longer fits its future. At the same time, its Airbus presence continues to grow, and its remaining wide-body orders point toward larger, more capable aircraft. This isn't about brand loyalty. It's about density, flexibility, and profitability in a market where domestic and regional demand matters more than ultra-long-haul range. There's also another layer that people are whispering about online. While nothing has been officially confirmed, some industry watchers believe this could quietly open the door for China's own wide-body ambitions. The upcoming COMAC C929 has been discussed as a future solution for medium to long-haul routes where capacity matters more than extreme range. For airlines focused on dense domestic corridors and regional international markets, such an aircraft could eventually make sense. Whether or not this sale directly connects to that future remains speculative, but the timing has certainly fueled discussion. So if passenger airlines are hesitant, who might actually want these jets? That's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Cargo operators are watching closely. Freighter conversions have become one of aviation's hottest opportunities. And the Dreamliner's composite structure and fuel efficiency make it an intriguing candidate. With global supply chains still strained and new aircraft deliveries delayed, acquiring available wide-bodies, even used ones, can be a strategic advantage. What struggles in the passenger market can thrive in cargo, and that second life could turn these aircraft into valuable assets. Once again, there's also growing talk about potential interest from airlines in rapid expansion mode. Air India, for example, has been aggressively rebuilding its long-haul network and could theoretically integrate more aircraft more easily than most. Still, any buyer would need to weigh upcoming maintenance costs and cabin upgrades carefully. These jets aren't old, but they're approaching expensive checkpoints, and that reality scares off many would-be buyers. In the end, this story isn't really about 10 airplanes. It's about how fast aviation economics are changing. Aircraft that were once celebrated as revolutionary can become strategically irrelevant in just over a decade. Airlines are no longer chasing novelty, they're chasing efficiency, density, and flexibility. China Southern's decision is a warning shot, not just to Boeing, but to every manufacturer watching the market shift beneath their feet. Fleets are becoming weapons in a competitive war, and sentiment no longer matters. The only thing that does is performance. And if a modern Dreamliner can be shown the door this early, it forces an uncomfortable question: what aircraft might be next? And the ripple effects of this decision don't stop with China Southern. Behind closed doors, aircraft, lessors, manufacturers, and rival airlines are all reading between the lines. In an industry where perception matters almost as much as performance, dumping an entire subfleet sends a powerful signal. It tells the market that even a technologically advanced aircraft can fall out of favor if it no longer aligns with network realities. This is especially uncomfortable for Boeing, because the 787 program was once positioned as the company's long-term answer to rising fuel prices and environmental pressure. Seeing one of Asia's most influential airlines walk away from the smallest Dreamliner variant is not just a lost, credibility hit. What makes this even more serious is the broader context. The global aviation industry is facing a severe aircraft shortage. Delivery delays stretch for years. Supply chains are strained. Engines are backlogged. Airlines across Europe, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia are desperate for lift. Under normal circumstances, 10 available widebodies would trigger a feeding frenzy. Instead, the market response has been cautious, almost hesitant. That hesitation exposes an uncomfortable truth. Airlines don't just want aircraft, they want the right aircraft. And in today's market, that means higher capacity, higher payload, and fewer compromises. This is where Boeing's challenge becomes clearer. The 787-8 occupies an awkward middle ground. It's too small to dominate high-density routes and too limited to maximize cargo revenue on long-haul flights. Meanwhile, its larger sibling, the 787-9, hits the sweet spot and airlines know it. That's why orders for the -9 dwarf those of the -8 over time. The smaller variant became a niche product, and niche products rarely survive in a hyper-competitive, margin-driven industry. China Southern didn't expose that weakness, it simply acted on it before the costs became impossible to ignore. There's also the maintenance clock ticking quietly in the background. As aircraft approach their second decade of service, heavy checks loom large. These inspections are time-consuming, expensive, and disruptive. For a fleet of just 10 aircraft, the economics become even harder to justify. Spare parts inventories, specialized training, and maintenance planning all add complexity. From a management perspective, simplifying the fleet isn't just efficient, it's survival. Selling now allows China Southern to avoid sinking millions into upkeep while redirecting capital toward aircraft that better fit its long-term vision. And that vision is becoming increasingly clear. China Southern isn't betting on ultra-long-haul growth the way Middle Eastern carriers are. Instead, it's focusing on dense domestic corridors, regional international routes, and scalable wide-bodies that can flex between passengers and cargo. That's why larger aircraft continue to dominate its order book. It's also why observers believe this move aligns with a broader trend across Chinese aviation fewer types, higher utilization, and tighter control over operating costs. This is also where speculation grows louder. While officially unconfirmed, industry chatter suggests that reducing dependence on Western manufacturers is becoming a long-term objective. China's aviation ambitions extend beyond airlines. They reach into manufacturing, certification, and global competitiveness. Creating space within fleets today could make room for domestically produced aircraft tomorrow. Whether that future arrives sooner or later remains to be seen, but decisions like this don't happen in isolation. They're steps in a much longer game. Ironically, what may look like rejection could become opportunity elsewhere. For cargo operators, these aircraft represent potential gold. A converted Dreamliner freighter would offer fuel savings compared to older wide-body freighters, with enough volume to handle high-value logistics routes. In a world where e-commerce and express shipping continue to explode, capacity matters more than ever. And because these aircraft already exist, buyers wouldn't need to wait half a decade for delivery slots. Speed alone makes them attractive. Still, the passenger market tells a harsher story. Airlines today want aircraft that make money from day one, not jets that require compromises. Refurbishment delays, certification hurdles, and performance limitations all reduce appeal. That's why even a modern aircraft can struggle to find a second home. The lesson is blunt. Innovation alone doesn't guarantee longevity. Relevance does. China Southern's decision ultimately forces a broader reckoning. If one of the world's largest airlines can discard a flagship aircraft less than 15 years into its life, no program is truly safe. Fleet planning is no longer about prestige or early adoption. It's about adaptability in a market that changes faster than manufacturers can respond. And for Boeing, the warning is clear. Without a next-generation widebody that offers higher capacity, better economics, and greater flexibility, more airlines may quietly follow the same path. So this isn't the end of the Dreamliner story, but it may be the end of an era. The age of forgiving inefficiency is over. Airlines are voting with their balance sheets, not their loyalty. And as China Southern steps away from the 787-8, the rest of the industry is watching closely, asking the same unsettling question. If even this aircraft isn't safe, what really is? What makes this moment so revealing is how quietly it happened. There was no dramatic press conference, no emotional farewell to the Dreamliner, no public criticism aimed at manufacturers. Just a clean, calculated decision posted in an official listing as if shedding 10 wide-body jets was routine housekeeping. And that's exactly what makes it unsettling. When airlines stop talking and start acting, it usually means the decision was made long ago. By the time the public notices, the strategy is already locked in. Inside airline boardrooms, fleet planning has become ruthless. Every aircraft must justify its place, not emotionally, but mathematically. Utilization rates, turnaround times, maintenance cycles, crew commonality, and cargo yield now matter more than branding or passenger perception. In that environment, operating a small subfleet of aircraft that doesn't perfectly align with network demand becomes a liability. 10 aircraft might sound insignificant, but operationally, they can create disproportionate complexity. Different spare parts, different training requirements, different scheduling. Constraints, all of it, adds friction. And friction is expensive. This is where China Southern's decision starts to look less shocking and more inevitable. The airline has been steadily simplifying its fleet, tightening its focus, and prioritizing aircraft that can be deployed flexibly across multiple mission profiles, dense domestic routes, regional, international sectors, high-demand trunk lines. In those environments, capacity wins. Aircraft that can't scale up revenue fast enough simply fall behind. The 787-8 didn't fail technically, it failed strategically. There's also a psychological shift happening across the industry. For years, airlines were willing to tolerate inefficiencies if an aircraft offered long-term promise. That tolerance is gone. Post-pandemic aviation is unforgiving. Fuel volatility, geopolitical risk, labor shortages, and regulatory pressure have compressed margins. Airlines no longer have the luxury of waiting for aircraft to grow into their role. If it doesn't deliver today, it becomes tomorrow's problem. China Southern chose not to wait. From the perspective of leasing companies, this sale is both an opportunity and a warning. On one hand, acquiring relatively young widebodies at discounted prices could unlock value through creative redeployment, part-out strategies, or cargo conversions. On the other hand, it highlights how quickly residual values can erode when an aircraft falls out of favor. Lessors now have to ask themselves a difficult question: which aircraft types could be next? For Boeing, the implications cut deeper. The company is already navigating production challenges, certification delays, and increasing competition. Losing confidence from a flagship Asian carrier quietly and decisively adds pressure. The industry is watching to see whether Boeing accelerates its next wide-body program or risks, leaving a gap that competitors are eager to fill. In aviation, hesitation is rarely forgiven. Meanwhile, Airbus continues to benefit from offering aircraft that align closely with today's airline priorities: higher density, stronger payload flexibility, and proven economics across a wide range of routes. That doesn't mean Airbus is immune to the same forces, but for now it's better positioned. Airlines don't care about rivalry. They care about results, and the results are steering decisions faster than marketing narratives can keep up. Zooming out, this moment captures a broader transformation in aviation. Aircraft life cycles are shrinking not because planes wear out faster, but because strategies evolve faster. A jet designed for one market reality can become obsolete in another without ever developing a technical flaw. That's a hard truth for manufacturers, but an unavoidable one. The winners in this environment won't be those who build the most advanced aircraft, but those who build the most adaptable ones. China Southern's Dreamliner exit isn't a rejection of innovation, it's a recalibration of priorities. The airline is betting that bigger, denser, and more flexible aircraft will outperform lighter, longer-range designs in its core markets. And based on current demand trends, that bet looks calculated, not reckless. So while these 10 aircraft wait quietly for their next chapter, the industry is already moving on. Strategies are being rewritten, orders are being reconsidered, and fleet planners everywhere are asking the same uncomfortable question. China Southern already answered. Does this aircraft still earn its place? Because in today's aviation market, sentiment doesn't extend service life. Economics do. And this is where the story takes on a colder, more revealing tone. Because beneath all the numbers and strategy slides is a simple reality. The industry rarely admits out loud. Aircraft don't retire when they get old, they retire when they stop fitting the narrative. The Boeing 787-8 didn't suddenly become unsafe, unreliable, or outdated overnight. It simply stopped matching the direction China Southern wants to move. That distinction matters, because it explains why this decision feels so unsettling. If relevance can disappear this fast for a jet that once defined the future, then no aircraft is immune. In many ways, this sale reflects a broader reset happening across global aviation. For years, airlines chased ultra-long-range capability, betting that global connectivity would expand endlessly. That bet worked until it didn't. The post-pandemic world reshaped travel patterns. Domestic and regional routes rebounded faster than intercontinental ones. High-frequency, high-density travel began outperforming long-haul prestige routes. Aircraft optimized for range suddenly found themselves flying missions they were never designed for, burning economics instead of fuel efficiency headlines. And airlines noticed China Southern's leadership appears to have reached a blunt conclusion. Flexibility beats perfection. A slightly less advanced aircraft that carries more passengers and more cargo more often will outperform a technically elegant jet that struggles to maximize revenue on core routes. That mindset explains why this isn't a one-off decision, but part of a longer pattern. Retiring the A380s early, slowing wide-body acquisitions, doubling down on fleet simplification. Each move points in the same direction: control costs, increase utilization, and remove anything that complicates execution. The fate of these 10 aircraft now sits in limbo, and that uncertainty mirrors the wider industry's anxiety. Passenger airlines hesitate. Leasing firms run spreadsheets. Cargo operators circle